The Toledo family is issuing a desperate plea for assistance in locating a 13-year-old girl who has now been missing for more than 2 days. Her name is Kei'Mani Latigue. The unsettling sequence of events began on the morning of Monday, March 17, 2025. Dorothy Latigue had just returned to her residence after completing an overnight work shift. Almost immediately upon entering her home, she was struck by an acute sense that something was profoundly wrong. Her granddaughter, 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue, for whom she holds legal custody, was absent. While it was typical for Kei'Mani to have already departed for school by the time Dorothy returned, this occasion was disturbingly different. The young girl's essential personal belongings remained scattered throughout the house. Her eyeglasses, her house keys, and her cell phone were all present. Her underclothes were found neatly folded near the couch, while her pajamas lay in a crumpled heap on the dining room floor. Most alarming of all, the kitchen stove had been left turned on. The last verified sighting of Kei'Mani occurred the previous night, Sunday, March 16, at approximately 10 o'clock. At that time, she was in the company of her biological father, Darnell Jones. According to her father, Kei'Mani had contacted him late that Sunday night, expressing fear about being home alone. He states that he came over to the residence because she reported that it seemed as though someone might be attempting to break into the house. He and his cousin remained at the location for a period of time, eventually leaving around 12:30 in the morning. Attempting to quell her rising concern, Dorothy telephoned Kei'Mani's school, Spring Elementary, to confirm her attendance. It was during this call that she discovered her granddaughter had never arrived for classes that day. A growing sense of anxiety compelled her to continue reaching out to numerous family members and friends, hoping desperately that someone might have seen Kei'Mani or heard from her. Unfortunately, no one had any information to offer, and every call made to Kei'Mani's personal phone went directly to voicemail. With each passing hour, Dorothy's profound concern deepened into outright dread, ultimately leading her to contact the local police department to file an official missing persons report. The Toledo Police Department responded with urgency, arriving at the scene without delay. They proceeded to conduct a preliminary search of the residence, an action that swiftly initiated a formal and thorough investigation. However, by Friday, March 21, the authorities found themselves with no substantial leads and no indication of Kei'Mani's whereabouts. In response, the community rallied together in a powerful display of solidarity. An extensive, city-wide search effort was quickly organized, drawing in not only volunteers and distraught family members but also numerous compassionate strangers. Kei'Mani Latigue had last been seen on Sunday night, and now, this assembled group converged upon the area near East Manhattan and Stickney, united in a single, somber purpose. Much of the organized search was concentrated in North Toledo, the very neighborhood from which the young girl had been reported missing. That day, teams of volunteers intensified their efforts, determined to locate the missing teenager. Described by those who knew her as a girl who loved to dance and enjoyed playing basketball, Kei'Mani had even joined the school basketball team that same year and was already demonstrating great promise. Armed with flyers and hearts heavy with hope, the searchers pressed on. "She doesn't get in trouble, she doesn't do stuff like this," her family and friends repeated, a refrain of disbelief. Her mother, who had traveled from Cleveland, joined them in North Toledo, moving block by painstaking block in a desperate quest for her missing daughter, 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue. The emotional toll was immense. The mother confessed, "I have not slept in 3 days. I have not eaten in 3 days. I have never had a seizure before, and I have had 3. The teenager had vanished after 10 p.m. on that Sunday night. Her grandmother, who served as her guardian, reported to a local news station that she had returned home from work to discover the door unlocked. This collective concern brought people from across Toledo and even from as far away as Cary, Ohio, to offer their support. Many expressed a shared sentiment, the thought that if it were their own child, they would hope for the same outpouring of community aid. Tragically, 3 days later, the search reached its devastating conclusion. On March 24, investigators discovered Kei'Mani's body inside a dilapidated, abandoned house on Miami Street in East Toledo. She had sustained severe injuries, including large wounds to her neck and the horrific loss of both her hands. Less than 24 hours afterward, the Lucas County coroner released the official autopsy report, which ruled her death a homicide caused by multiple incised wounds to the neck. The news of this gruesome discovery sent profound shockwaves throughout the entire community. For an entire week, people had clung to a fragile hope for her safe return. Now, that hope was irrevocably replaced by heartbreak and mourning. At Spring Elementary School, grief counselors were brought in to support students and staff, while teachers struggled to find adequate words to convey the loss. Classmates created a makeshift memorial outside the school building, adorning it with heartfelt tributes. One handwritten sign poignantly read, "You were always smiling, Kei'Mani. We miss you." Kei'Mani had been just days away from celebrating her 14th birthday. A spokesperson for Toledo Public Schools noted that she had recently been recognized at the school's honor roll assembly and was also scheduled to receive a kindness award that very same week. In an official statement, the district remembered Kei'Mani as being remarkably personable and someone who got along very well with others. Yet, this profound grief soon transformed into palpable outrage, underpinned by a pressing and urgent question: could this tragedy have been prevented? Detectives rapidly turned their attention to Darnell Jones, the last known person to have seen Kei'Mani alive. During police questioning, Jones allegedly provided conflicting statements regarding both his own whereabouts and Kei'Mani's movements on the night she disappeared. His behavior grew more suspicious when he made an odd request, calling his girlfriend and asking her to disable the home security cameras. She refused. According to her subsequent statement, a relative then observed Jones removing items from his SUV while she was in the bedroom. He brought these items into the house and concealed them beneath the basement stairs. Grown concerned, the girlfriend contacted the police. Officers secured a search warrant, retrieved the hidden items, and entered them into evidence. Jones soon realized the police had been in the home and that the evidence was now gone, at which point he immediately fled, never to be seen again by his girlfriend. The Toledo Police Department promptly issued a bulletin for Darnell Jones, distributing the alert to law enforcement agencies across the state. By the next morning, March 25, at around 10 o'clock, the manhunt was fully underway. A tactical unit from the Columbus Police Department located a suspect, identified as Darnell Jones, near the intersection of 2nd Street and Denison Avenue. The scene rapidly escalated into a tense and volatile confrontation. Officers immediately issued forceful commands, their voices sharp with urgency. "Let me see your hands. Show me your hands right now. Pull your hand out," one officer yelled, the command echoing through the air. "I swear to God, do it." Another voice cut through the tension, ordering, "Don't move. Don't you move." The situation was dangerously precarious, with the officers perceiving a direct threat. "He's got a 33 right there. A 33 is here," one shouted, referencing police code for a firearm. Another officer quickly corrected, "No, it's a walkie-talkie." But the initial alarm held firm. "There's a 33 right here. Don't you move or you're gonna get shot. Okay? All right." With the suspect secured on the ground, the immediate physical threat began to subside, giving way to a critical medical emergency. An officer called for communication priority, stating, "Somebody get on the main air," to which a reply came, "I'm working on it." The commands continued as they secured Mr. Jones. "All right, on your belly. All right." With him in custody, the tone shifted from one of confrontation to one of urgent care. "I got cuffs on. There you go. Thank you, brother. We'll get you help, okay?" It was then that the human tragedy of the event became painfully clear. Mr. Jones, his voice strained with despair, uttered, "I just want to die, bro." The responding officer responded with remarkable empathy, "No, I know. But we can't allow that." Despite this reassurance, Jones reiterated his anguish, saying, "I don't want to live." The officer immediately redirected his team to focus on life-saving measures, yelling, "Get us some shears. Let's cut this dude." After a brief struggle to get the suspect into a patrol car, an officer offered a word of somber reassurance. "You did good. All right? You did it. Okay. You good? All right. I know. All right." The officer then explained the necessary steps for medical aid with calm precision. "Listen to me. Listen, I got to roll you over. I got to get you up on your side. Okay? I got to get you up on your side. I got you. All right." Jones, disoriented and in pain, asked, "Where I hit it, bro?" The officer, assessing the injuries, replied, "I don't know. I know he's hit in his arm once." The call for a medic was renewed with greater intensity. Need a medic here now. Another voice confirmed, I know they're coming. Okay, we got him. He's hit once in the arm. All right, he's hit in the side here. Yep, you're hit in the side. Okay, you're gonna be fine. Attempting to sit the injured man up, the officer encouraged him, sit up. Okay, you're gonna be fine. Jones struggled, stating, I can't move my arm. Okay, the officer acknowledged this, suggesting, I think it's broken. They worked to make him as comfortable as possible under the dire circumstances. Okay, we're gonna let you sit here like this. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, okay? Concurrently, orders were barked to secure the perimeter for the arriving medical team. Move that car. Block that road. You're on 2nd and Denison. Get that road blocked. The officer then focused entirely on keeping Jones conscious and engaged. All right, we can't let you down. Okay? You gotta stay up. I'll hold you up. All right, you just relax. Lean back into there. There you go. You're gonna be fine. Listen. Hey, nothing's ever that bad. All right. Okay. As the situation stabilized slightly, the officers proceeded with their protocol, checking for further threats. Darnell, right? Do you have anything else on you? Do you have any more guns? When the suspect affirmed he did, the officer pressed, yes. Where's your other gun at? However, the suspect's consciousness began to fade, making coherent communication impossible. I don't know, Darnell. Hey, Darnell, do you have anything else on you? Yeah, you say you had a gun. An officer nearby observed, well, I don't. I think yes, you are having a seizure. Please, try to hold still. I understand this is frightening, but you must not move your arms. I know this is painful. The medical team is here to assist you. Everything will be all right. We are not here to harm you. We are absolutely not trying to kill you. No, we cannot remove the restraint from your arm at this moment. The doctors will need to cut it away very shortly. According to official police reports, during the initial encounter, Mr. Jones produced a firearm, which subsequently led to him being shot by responding officers. He was transported to a hospital and listed in critical condition, though his status later improved and he was stabilized. Court documents further allege that he confessed to luring the young victim to an abandoned residence, the very location where he then carried out the fatal assault. Following his apprehension, Jones was formally processed and incarcerated at the Franklin County Jail, where he was denied bond. Owing to the injuries sustained during his arrest, he was placed within the medical ward of the facility for supervision and care. On the 18th of April, he made his initial appearance before a judge in Lucas County Court, at which time his total bond was established at $4 million. This sum was broken down as $2 million for the murder charge, followed by $1 million for the charge of abduction, and another $1 million for the charge of felonious assault. Just as it seemed the circumstances of this case could not grow more grim, another wholly unexpected event occurred. On the morning of the 19th of April, less than 1 month after the victim's body was discovered, the derelict house on Miami Street was consumed by a fierce fire. The structure had previously been designated as a Code Red property due to its perilous state of disrepair. By the time fire department units arrived on the scene, the building was already entirely engulfed in intense flames. Given the unstable integrity of the home and its central role in an ongoing homicide investigation, firefighters made a deliberate decision to combat the blaze strictly from the exterior, avoiding any entry into the compromised structure. Investigators would later determine the origin of the fire to be suspicious, and it is currently being investigated as a potential act of arson. In response to mounting public concern, city officials from Toledo were quick to reassure the community that all essential evidence related to the investigation had been successfully collected and secured long before the fire began. Demolition crews were dispatched to the location within hours, and by late that same morning, the structure had been completely leveled. The city cited pressing public safety concerns and the profound trauma inflicted upon the community as the primary reasons for this rapid emergency demolition. Amidst the destruction, however, one important element was spared. In the days preceding the fire, members of the community had established a growing memorial at the site, featuring flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and numerous stuffed animals arranged along the sidewalk in honor of the young victim. Thankfully, these tender tributes had been carefully removed and preserved beforehand. They were subsequently relocated, representing a small, yet powerful, act of reverence and care amidst such overwhelming devastation. For many observers, watching the house burn felt deeply symbolic, as if it represented the final erasure of a scene too painful and horrific to remain standing. Then, less than 2 weeks after the fire, on the 30th of April, Darnell Jones appeared in court once more, this time for his formal arraignment. Thanks to the presence of courtroom cameras, the public gained its first direct look at Jones since his arrest. Seated before the presiding judge, he entered a plea to the serious charges leveled against him, all tied to the death of his own 13-year-old daughter. While the hearing itself was a standard procedural event, it carried immense symbolic weight for everyone watching. It was a profoundly jarring moment to see a man, who by all accounts should have been a protective father, now formally accused of committing one of the most brutal crimes in recent memory. We are gathered here today to formally commence the adjudication in this court of the charges brought against Mr. Jones. Of course, here is a deeply revised and rewritten version of the provided text, crafted for clarity, flow, and literary quality while meticulously adhering to the original facts and meaning. The court now calls the matter of Jones regarding the aforementioned charges. We have previously engaged in a discussion concerning the indictments and have covered a substantial amount of necessary procedural ground today. Mr. Jones, I am aware that a number of individuals are present in the courtroom today on your behalf. I can certainly appreciate that this situation might understandably generate feelings of anxiety or nervousness. My request to you is to do your very best to focus your attention on me, on the questions I will be posing, and on the information I will be providing throughout these proceedings. Do you understand? As we have indicated, there is a great deal of material we must review, and it is of paramount importance to me that you comprehend everything clearly. To begin with, could you please state your full legal name for the record? What is your name, sir? I am widely known as Overtree. Darnell Overtree. However, the gentleman is also referred to as Jones. That is correct. May I offer a brief explanation? I use the name Overtree. My name given at birth is Darnell Overtree, and my family name, the one I was born with, is Darnell Jones. I have been using the name Overtree consistently since I was approximately 19 years of age. Nevertheless, if you were to address me formally for the first time, you might refer to me as Mr. Jones, as that is the name indicated on the official documentation. Indeed, the court documents do list the name Jones. Yes, but I must also state that all of my personal identification, my tax records, and every official document you would have encountered for me are under the surname Overtree. I do not wish to be misleading. How would you prefer I proceed? And where were you raised? Where do you currently reside? I have lived in this country, in the United States of America, for my entire life, and I intend to remain here permanently. And are you a citizen of the United States? Yes, sir, I am. Are you able to speak, read, and understand the English language with full comprehension? Yes, sir, I can. Are you fluent in speaking or in writing any other language? No, sir, only English. Just English. Do you experience any difficulties with your vision, your hearing, or with reading? No, I do not. I do occasionally wear reading glasses for my contacts, but that is all. Very well. Please be advised that there will be several documents for you to read today. As we are operating under the formal indictment, you will see its contents displayed upon the large screen monitor as well as on the smaller screen positioned directly before you. I will also be reading aloud certain sections of it. Therefore, at any point should you require assistance with reading or understanding any material, you must please inform either your legal counsel or bring it to my attention directly. Is that agreeable? Regarding your hearing, do you utilize any hearing aids or similar devices? Are you able to hear me clearly at this moment? Yes, I can hear you without any difficulty. I must ask you to endeavor to speak in a clear and audible tone whenever you respond. Okay, are you presently taking any prescribed medications? Following a previous accident, I was placed on a regimen of psychiatric medications. Is this for anxiety? Yes, that is correct. And are you taking these specific medications under the direct supervision and order of a physician? Yes, I am. Do you take them precisely in accordance with your doctor's instructions? Yes, I follow the instructions as given. To the best of your knowledge, do these medications in any way impair your capacity to understand the information I am relaying to you? No, sir, they do not. Do they affect your ability to formulate answers to the questions I will ask? No, they do not. Once again, if I proceed too quickly or if any statement is unclear to you, it is absolutely imperative that you bring this to our attention. Okay, Let us return for a moment to your medical history. Have you previously received, or are you currently receiving, treatment for any diagnosed mental illness? Yes, sir, I have. Could you specify the nature of that treatment? It is for depression and for ADHD. It has been a significant and ongoing course of treatment. I do not wish to delve unduly into the private details of your medical history. The sole reason I inquire into this psychological background is to ensure, and I am certain your attorney shares this concern, that you are fully capable of understanding the questions put to you and the nature of these proceedings. My only objective is to confirm that no medical, physical, or psychological condition hinders your ability to comprehend my inquiries and to respond to them appropriately. Okay, of course. Here is a deeply revised and expanded version of the provided text, crafted for clarity, narrative flow, and auditory elegance. The court clerk's voice was a steady, formal monotone, methodically giving the charges another full reading at the request of the court. The document, known formally as an indictment and bearing the defendant's name, outlined a series of severe operative allegations. This single indictment contained no fewer than 15 distinct counts, each one formally charting a separate obligation for the accused to answer. The first and most grave of these is Count 1, aggravated murder. This unclassified felony carries the most serious conditions under the law. It is legally alleged that the accused did purposefully, and with prior calculation and design, cause the death of another individual. This act is stated as a cumulative violation of specific code sections, the combination of which elevates the charge to aggravated murder. Listed directly beneath this primary charge are several felony murder specifications. The first such specification alleges that the underlying murder was committed while the accused was engaged in, attempting to commit, or fleeing immediately after committing or attempting to commit the offense of rape. It further states that the defendant acted as the principal offender in the commission of this aggravated murder, or, alternatively, that if not the principal offender, the murder itself was still carried out with that same prior calculation and design. A second felony murder specification follows an identical legal structure, but it substitutes the offense of kidnapping in place of rape. A third specification then replaces both rape and kidnapping with the charge of aggravated robbery. Beyond this alteration of the underlying predicate offense, all three specifications are essentially the same in their construction and intent. On the subsequent page of the indictment, a further murder specification is detailed. This one states that the offense was committed for the express purpose of escaping detection, apprehension, trial, or punishment for another offense previously committed, namely, rape, kidnapping, and/or aggravated murder. Following this is what is termed a sexual motivation specification, which asserts that the entire offense was committed with a sexual motivation. Finally, the document includes a sexually violent predator specification, declaring that the accused is deemed to be a sexually violent predator. Throughout this detailed recitation, the defendant, Darnell Jones, sat quietly before the judge, offering a plea of not guilty to the entire litany of brutal charges. Yet, the solemn procedure unfolding within that courtroom represented merely one chapter of a much larger and more troubling story. For even as the legal process began its forward march, a parallel investigation into the history of Darnell Jones himself was gaining momentum. What gradually surfaced was a deeply disturbing pattern, a long and unchecked history of criminal behavior that had, for years, met with only minimal consequences. A thorough review of court records reveals that Jones had been cycled in and out of the criminal justice system for the better part of a decade, with a record stretching all the way back to 2011. Despite this, he had served only relatively short periods of jail time. This extensive history includes multiple convictions for offenses such as domestic assault, resisting arrest, attempted arson, and numerous weapons violations. Furthermore, there were consistent reports of significant substance abuse. These repeated red flags collectively painted a clear and alarming portrait of a man caught in a dangerous downward spiral, long before the current tragedy unfolded. Most disturbingly of all, despite this extensive and violent history, he somehow still maintained legal access to his young daughter. This stark reality inevitably raised profound and urgent questions about who knew what, and, more critically, when they knew it. Inevitably, the focus of this inquiry soon turned toward the County Children's Services Agency, which found itself placed under intense scrutiny. According to an official statement released by the agency and authorized by county prosecutors, the Lucas County Children's Services had indeed investigated multiple prior reports regarding the care and welfare of the child, Kei'Mani. The Child Welfare Agency received a total of 3 distinct complaints over a period of several months. The first was filed in December of last year, followed by 2 additional reports in March of this year. Each expressed serious concerns regarding the alleged use of physical discipline within the child's home environment. In accordance with standard procedure, investigators conducted private interviews with the young girl, Kei'Mani, on each of these separate occasions. During every conversation, she consistently assured them that she felt secure and protected in her living situation. Relying heavily on these direct statements from the child herself, the agency ultimately determined there was insufficient legal grounds to pursue her removal from the home. A particularly significant detail emerged from the agency's statements. They confirmed they had never received any report that specifically identified a man named Darnell Jones. In fact, they were entirely unaware of his existence or any potential role he played in Kei'Mani's life throughout the entire duration of their involvement. Even more disconcerting was their admission that had they known of his presence, it might not have altered their final assessment of the family's situation. A representative was quoted in a reflective tone, stating, "No, well, I suppose it depends on what we would have learned from whoever was identified as that, but no, we determined that that placement there was appropriate." The investigation concluded that all of Kei'Mani's fundamental needs were being adequately met. She was receiving proper sustenance, her housing conditions were satisfactory, and her educational and medical requirements were fully addressed. The official added, "So the presence of a father would not have caused us, I think, to recommend to the juvenile court that they change custody or placement." While the agency has expressed a willingness to disclose more information to alleviate growing public concern, it has stipulated that this can only occur once prosecutors confirm such a release would not compromise the integrity of the ongoing criminal case. Despite this offer, a profound sense of skepticism persists throughout the community, and public frustration continues to mount. In response, several child advocacy groups have publicly demanded a fully independent review of the Children's Services operational protocols and accountability standards. Adding a deeply personal perspective to the tragedy, Kei'Mani's former teacher came forward to share her own anguish. She believes the devastating outcome was entirely preventable. This sentiment was echoed at a poignant vigil where a crowd gathered at an abandoned house on Miami and Wilmot Streets. Their voices united in a solemn chant, repeating the name of a young girl whose memory will endure, 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue. Although many of the mourners had never known Kei'Mani personally, they came together in solidarity, gathering flowers and balloons and lighting candles in her memory. One attendee remembered her as, "just a joy to be around," adding that, "she will be deeply missed." Her former teacher, Colleen Harabishan, provided a heartfelt recollection, describing Kei'Mani from the previous school year. "She was very sweet," Harabishan shared. "I enjoyed having her at school every day. She greeted me every single morning with a hug." The teacher poignantly reflected that affection seemed to be all Kei'Mani had ever truly wanted, noting it was something the girl might have needed far more of. "This feels preventable," the teacher stated with clear emotion. Harabishan revealed that she, along with other concerned staff members, had previously contacted Children's Services to report alarming statements Kei'Mani had made and because she had arrived at school with visible injuries, sharing disturbing details about events within her household. It is important to note that during this specific period, Kei'Mani was under the care of a different guardian. Nonetheless, the teacher is left with the painful and lingering wish that something, anything, could have unfolded differently to alter this tragic course. As of the time of this reporting, Darnell Jones remains in custody at the Lucas County Jail, being held on a bond of $4 million. He has entered a plea of not guilty to multiple severe charges, including aggravated murder, kidnapping, and a series of felonies connected to the abuse and death of his 13-year-old daughter. Prosecutors have formally confirmed their intention to seek the death penalty in this case. While a tentative date for the trial has been scheduled for April of 2026, the sheer volume of evidence presents a significant challenge to that timeline. The prosecution must meticulously review more than 200 separate pieces of evidence, a comprehensive collection that includes extensive surveillance footage, video from responding officers' body cameras, a multitude of digital records, and numerous detailed witness statements. The complexity of processing such a vast amount of material makes it highly probable that the currently proposed schedule may yet be subject to change. What remains unequivocally clear, however, is the profound nature of this case, which stands as one of the most intricate, widely publicized, and emotionally resonant legal proceedings that Northwest Ohio has witnessed in many years. The intense public scrutiny and the weight of the facts have created a narrative that is both compelling and deeply somber. Amidst the relentless news cycles, the legal complexities, and the broader societal debates, it becomes all too easy to lose sight of the central, human truth at the heart of this story. This narrative is not about legal procedures or evidence logs. It is about a young girl named Kei'Mani Latigue. She was a bright and exceptionally kind-hearted 7th grade student, on the very cusp of her teenage years and merely days away from celebrating her 14th birthday. Her promise was already being realized, as she had earned a place on the honor roll and was also slated to receive a special award for her kindness. Her teachers now recall the radiant warmth of her smile, and her classmates vividly remember the joyful sound of her laughter. Above all else, Kei'Mani was a child who deserved to feel secure, to be safeguarded by her community, and to have the opportunity to grow up enveloped in love and surrounded by hope, not to be defined by an unthinkable tragedy. Her name was Kei'Mani, and her life mattered immeasurably.